During a high school class project, my teacher told me it's unrealistic being a CEO. It's been my dream to be a CEO since I was 10, so I told her it is realistic. Follow me on my journey to learn what it takes to become a CEO.
Welcome to another episode of the Realistic CEO Podcast. Today I'm here with Dina and McMahon. How are you doing today?
Hello. Hi.
Thank you for allowing me to interview you today.
Of course. It's weird for me because usually I'm the one interviewing people and now I'm the one being interviewed. So this is different.
Thank you. For the first question I want to ask you, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Okay. So I work for 94.7 WMAS, which is part of Odyssey. And I've been a co-host of the Kellogg Crew for quite some time now. I want to say we're going on 17 years together, but I've been part of other morning shows with the radio station. And for many years, I've been a promotions director. Currently, I am doing the morning show, but I also do a lot of community events. Basically, I'm the liaison for the station when it comes to any organizations that want to promote like a charity or a special event they have coming up. So that is basically what I do.
Can you tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got to where you are today?
It was a non-traditional journey, I guess you could say, in some aspects. In others, it was. But so I went to college and I went in with all intentions of being an elementary or preschool teacher until I realized maybe kids were just not for me. Working with kids was not where I needed to be. And then I switched my major to psychology. And then I switched my major to fashion merchandising. And then I finally switched my major to what appeared to be the only other thing I could possibly find interest in, which was communications. And towards the end of the program, they said, you need to do an internship. And I said, okay, I don't know what to do. You got to help me out here. So they gave me a book. We didn't have the internet back then. I'm dating myself to be able to look things up and see what was out there. So I flipped through all the pages of the book and there was an opportunity at a radio station. So I said, okay, I'll try that. That wasn't the direction I was planning to go though. I initially had thought of getting into more like speech writing or something to that effect. I never thought radio. So I never had any of the radio training. I never did any of the college radio station stuff. I never did any of that. Did the internship and then graduated, went on my way, and I got a call back from them saying, listen, our promotions director left. Would you be willing to fill in while we look for somebody? So I said, sure, why not? Filled in, kept applying for jobs, got a job offer somewhere else. And on that same day, the radio station called and said, listen, we're not going to look for anybody else. Would you like the job? So it was a big decision to make. And it really, in terms of big decision, it was like, is my direction going to go in radio or am I going to follow the path that I thought I was going to follow? And I chose radio and I have been here ever since.
So you first going into college wanted to be an early ed teacher. Switching your major two other times. When you were switching your major, was there any thought process behind why you switched your major or just you just wanted to find something that was other than early ed?
It was a matter of just what I found interesting at the time. I knew that I liked psychology. So I thought, okay, let me pursue psychology then. And then I realized it was different than what I thought it was going to be. So I think part of the problem is I went into the college arena without really investigating what I was getting into. I think I just had this image of what it was to be a preschool teacher. I had a class in high school where we got to help take care of little kids, and that was the greatest hour of my day. So I thought, well, how fun was that? Let's do that. And then getting into the program, realized, oh, that's not what it's all about. And had I done maybe a little more in-depth investigating into what I thought my career path was going to be, maybe I would have made a better decision from the start. I think I jumped around a lot, not really looking into the depth of each area I was going into. Again, I fell into communications by accident. It was just a matter of what's left, and definitely wasn't going to be art. I knew I didn't have any math skills, wasn't great at science either. So my options were getting limited.
So You talked about when you first went into communication, you thought you were going to do more like speech writing, but now you're doing radio talk hosts. So what was it about speech writing that you thought that's something that you wanted to do?
I always did really well in English, and I had an appreciation for writing. I just liked the clean cutness of it, like just being able to put something on paper, to see it and be proud of it, and to fine tune it and make it something that I felt was perfect. And now I do the complete opposite. I don't write anything down, and it all comes from here to here and out. And I do get to write a little bit here. I do have a blog that we post every day of the Dina's Dirt, which is, again, something completely different than what I ever thought I would be doing. And so I do get to put my writing to the test a little bit, but I do feel like this is something I never thought I would be doing. If you asked me in high school, do you think you'd ever see yourself on the radio? No way. So this was definitely not something in my pipe dream.
Would you say that there's similarities and differences between you writing versus when you're talking, like when it comes to in your career?
Absolutely. I just feel like with the written word, I think you have more control over it. And as we've seen in real life every day, when people talk, sometimes you hear what they say and you think, wow, they really should have taken a beat. Like they really should have thought about those words before they came out of their mouth. And I have moments like that too. I like the fact that the written word, you can spell check, you can grammar check, you can make that as perfect as you want it to be. Whereas everything that comes out of your mouth, or my mouth at the very least, I can tell you sometimes, I would say at least 3 to 4 times a day, I'll say to myself, what did I just say? And I have no idea the words that just came out of my mouth. Or someone will say, wow, that was really well said. And I go, thank you. What did I say? I have no idea, but I appreciate the fact that they liked it. Yes, it's a big difference to me anyway. I see a big difference.
When you first took the internship at the radio station, like you said, you didn't really think that you were going to stay there. But like when you, like during the internship, what was it about it? Like, yeah, okay, maybe I should just give this a try.
So my internship was in the promotions department. And again, that was more aligned with what I thought I was going to be doing, which was behind the scenes work. So in the promotions department, I was planning, doing a lot of event planning, doing a lot more writing for things that would go on the air, and even a little bit of script writing too for commercials. So I did have an opportunity to put to use the skills that I thought I'd be using later on, which I do still use those skills, like I said, but just in a different capacity. And I enjoyed that. So when they said be our promotions director, I said, sure. And then a few years later, they said, would you want to be on the air full time? Because at the time of the promotions director job, I was on the air twice a week. I was Dina McMahon in the van. And so I went out in the van and I gave away prizes to people. And that was a little scary too, because putting myself in the forefront and interacting with people, that wasn't my comfort zone. I'm like the outgoing girl when I'm with all my friends and stuff. But when I'm with strangers, I tend to be a little more reserved and read the room first. So having to put myself out there and just be all like, hey, how's it going? And nice to meet you. And that wasn't who I was. So it pushed me out of my comfort zone. And then when the full-time on-air position came up, I was terrified of it, but I thought I'll give it a try. And really at that point in my career, I still felt like I was just trying things. Like it was more of a, let's see if this works. And I never really approached it with a, this is my next path sort of attitude. And I feel like if I had, I probably would have been in a better place and would have learned more. I would have learned more and more quickly. I don't know. I just feel like to this day, maybe I still might have more skills or better skills if I had approached it with a let's do this kind of attitude, not a let's see where this goes. So.
Well, what skills did you take from the promotions side of things rather than being on air and everybody is seeing you in action?
One thing that I did learn was there was a big difference between things that were written and things that were said. So you say things in a different way than you write them. And so it gave me the opportunity to, I was able to write scripts for commercials. And then I was able to take things that I would want to say on the radio and reword them to be conversational, to be what a person would say in a conversation, because the one very important thing I learned was that you don't talk like this to a person. You don't read off the piece of paper and say everything like it's written to the person you're talking to. You say it in a whole different way. And that's how you connect with people. And I don't know how long it would have taken me to learn that if I was, say, doing speech writing, because speech writing is not as conversational, or it used to not be anyway, but I don't know if you follow politics at all. I really don't, but I just know that when you see politicians speak, I feel like a lot of them have softened their speeches and their tone, and it doesn't sound so red anymore. It sounds like they are trying to make a connection with a person, because that's how you move things in life, is making connections. You know, that's how you move people. That's how you inspire action, is by making a connection. So that's one thing I learned, was just being able to, what kind of a delivery do I want to have and what kind of a connection am I making? So commercial writing, you're trying to get the information out. Being on air, talking to people, you're trying to make a connection.
What is some advice that you would give to somebody that wants to become not only a radio host, a host in general?
I would say learn everything you can, because that was something I have come to look back on, is that I wish I had learned more, and learn things you don't think you need to learn, but just, I don't know, when you're baking a cake, you need all the ingredients, right? And I think that in radio, being able to push some buttons and talk on the air, that's great. But knowing how your equipment works, knowing that if I tweak this button a little bit, it's going to sound better, knowing that if you go off the air, how do I fix this very quickly? If you're not someone who's writing commercials, still learn what commercial writing is about. Learn everything that you can, because the more you learn about what you do and how your eggs make the cake, I guess you could say, because you could be the eggs, you could be the flour, you could be the sugar, and what you do independently, but what you all do together to make that cake. I speak in food terms a lot because I like food, or I like cake, but that's what's important, is knowing how you fit in to the puzzle and what you can do to make it better.
What are like the team members that it takes to have the radio show going?
Let's see, we have our hosts, which would be throughout the day. We have the morning show, middays, afternoons, different shifts. We have our engineers, which we find crucial because they are the ones who will get you back up on the air. And there's a lot of components besides what's called the board, where you have all your volumes and the buttons that turn the microphones on. You've got your computers that run all your music, a whole different world than it was 20 years ago. And so we have our generators that frequently will go down if the wind is too strong, if the temperature is too high. So we rely heavily on our engineers. I feel like they don't get enough credit. We have a sales team, and we rely on them in terms of, they're the ones who sell the advertising. If the radio station's not making money, we're not making paychecks. We have our promotions department, who keeps things fresh for what we do on the air. So you might hear different contests that we do, and that keeps people engaged. It keeps them like coming back for more. And let's see, who else do we have? There are sales assistants, there's our general manager. The way that I feel like radio runs these days is that we've had to scale back quite a lot. Since when I first started, I remember we had so many more people. And as the years go on, you scale back. It's just the way the industry has become. And I think that's not just radio. I feel like that's everywhere. You find that everybody's cutting back and everybody's getting a little more work to who's still left behind. So I feel like every single person who currently works at a radio station is essential. You even have people that work just events. You'll call them in. We do a Halloween ball. And so with our Halloween ball, we have hundreds of people come. And it takes a lot of people to pull that off, from the decorating and the planning and everything, and just all the components that go into that. No one is to be undervalued here. Everybody's efforts are seen and appreciated and make an impact, for sure.
All right. So like you talk about how you start off as an intern in promotion to now being on air. Were you like nervous, like knowing that you got that promotion to being able to go onto the air?
I was very nervous. I'm not a person who handles change well. And so that to me was jumping into a cold pool. And I was very nervous, but for as long as I've been doing it, still to this day, I do get nervous sometimes. If you don't get nervous, the way I feel is if you don't get nervous about something, it means you don't care about it enough. Or maybe you just have so much confidence, but not everybody can have that level of confidence. But I feel like me being nervous is a good thing because it means that I care about the job that I'm doing and that I want to do well. So I I still can't believe I've been doing it as long as I have. And I don't think I've ever thought of going anywhere after this. So for me to still be nervous at a job I've been at for 20 something years, yeah.
What are some ways that you're able to combat your nerves or use it toward making sure that?
One of my little tricks is that even though I'm talking to could be 100,000 people at once, I just envision I'm talking to a person. I just pick out a person in my head, maybe somebody I know, maybe just a listener I've come across once in my life. And I just pretend like they're on the other end of that microphone. And it makes me feel a little more comfortable, a little more relaxed. And I don't feel like I'm on a big stage or something because I was never that person to be like, hey, everybody. And I feel like that's part of the reason why I was okay with doing that in radio, because back then you didn't see us that much. That was the beauty of being on the radio. I could come in my pajamas if I wanted to and with my hair in a bun and nobody would know. And I always used to say I could never be on TV. There's no way I could be on TV. I'm so nervous. I get nervous when I do interviews. I don't like to be that person. That's why I wanted to be the speechwriter. I didn't want to be the person giving the speech. I wanted to write the speech. You read the speech. You read my perfect words. So that's how I get past that, is just putting myself in the mindset of a comfortable situation, which is a more intimate setting, and being with a person or two, not 100,000 people.
So being able to just break down the 100,000 to two has been able to help you.
Yeah.
But let's say when you are on television or like you don't like to be on camera, how are you able to get past that far as well?
I don't know that I've mastered that yet. To be honest, I can't stop my brain from racing. And that is a classic example of what I was telling you before about how I will say something and then I'll say, what did I just say? I do that with the reporters all the time. When we talk to the local news stations, they'll interview me for something. It'll be a 30-second to a 1-minute interview. And I've probably gone completely dry mouth, licked my lips a dozen times, and I'll blurt something out. And then I'll look at the reporter when she says, okay, cut. I say, okay, thanks. What did I say? Was I okay? Did I say something good? Like, it's still nerve-wracking. I think I need to work on that because I don't have a lot of experience with that. If you added up all the times over my career that I've been on TV, it would probably total 10 minutes.
That's a good amount of your time. But
yeah, you're my longest so far.
Another thing that you talked about is that not only are you on the radio, but you're also doing events as well. So what is that like to go out and do events?
The events, they're a great way for me to connect with our listeners, because sometimes sitting behind the microphone, you obviously don't get to see who you're talking to. You don't know what's happening out there. And when I run into people and they say, oh, I love your station and I love when you guys do this and I love the Dina Showbiz Pop Quiz Contest, and then you get a chance to see what sticks and what's resonating with people and what they like. And obviously we want people to like what we do. So it's a great way to get feedback. It's definitely a good feeling to know that there are people out there that we can make them smile. I know that I met a woman once who said that her father had passed away, and the first thing she did, she got in her car, she sat there, she cried for a little bit, and then she said she turned on the radio and went to drive away, and she heard our voices and she heard us laughing, and she said it just calmed her. And I thought, wow, if I can have that kind of an impact on somebody, that's a wow moment. Like, you don't think about things like that. You think about, are they smiling? Are they laughing? Are they having fun with us? But to know that you've impacted a person that's a really great feeling. So I like seeing that at the events, hearing how people connect with us, and just being able to know that we're part of an event that's meaningful. I've done the suicide prevention walk. We do the Rays of Hope event. There are a lot of different charities that we get involved with, and to know that some of those people are there because we helped spread the word and get the word out there about this. So we're helping to bring the community together. Again, that's another great feeling. So it's nice to know that I can get these good feelings from the work that I do, know that it's something meaningful.
Have you had a favorite moment on air?
A favorite moment on air. Okay, so one that comes to mind is it was during COVID and I was working out of my house. We were able to do a setup where we'd be able to connect with each other still that way. And we were talking about something and something to do with dogs, I believe. And my dog, who was the best behaved dog, like she was always so good just chilling with me there, started barking. Like as soon as I said whatever it was I said, she just started barking. And I was like, what? It's like she disagreed with what I just said. And I thought, how ironic and what perfect timing. And when would that ever happen that she actually would know this is where I chime in? So that was one of my favorite moments. Another is sometimes we have our moms on the air. It's just fun to do that. And so getting my mom on the air and having her tell stories, that's always fun too. Just, I don't know. I always enjoy hearing my mom's stories. So for me, it's very special that she's willing to come on the air and share those. And then recorded my kids before we've played them back doing Halloween tips, just having those permanent memories and having it on a CD. Now I should probably put it on an MP3 because that'll be obsolete soon too. Just those moments stand out to me. Those are some of my favorite moments.
Have you had some funny bloopers on
Oh
air?
gosh, yeah. So many. We abuse each other with that kind of stuff around here. If any of us have a moment like that, it gets saved forever. And then it gets thrown back at us like in the weirdest, most inopportune moments. So I know that there's stuff out there like floating around where I've made like total goofs. And so that's why I'm nice to my coworkers so they don't use it against me.
So throughout all these years in your experience of being on the radio and also starting off in the promotion, would you, if you were to restart, would you pick this career still?
Oh, geez. You know what? Would I? If I knew everything that was going to have happened over the last 20 something years, then yes, absolutely, I would. Looking back at who I was when I was 17, I probably wouldn't because I think 17-year-old me would have still been too afraid. And just even if you had said, listen, you're on the radio and you're comfortable talking to people, you're okay with it. And that 17-year-old me would have been like, that is not true. There's no way. That would not be me. So it would have to have had been another accident for it to happen the way it did. For anybody out there looking to get into something, but they're too afraid to, try it. Explore it is what I should say at the very least. And that's something I wish I had done when I was younger, was taken the opportunity to explore more things and not just assume and look at things at a surface level. Like I said, I thought being an elementary teacher or preschool teacher would have been great. And on the surface, it looked so fantastic. And then really getting into it, realizing it wasn't for me, you'd have thought I learned my lesson when I looked into the next major and the next major and the next major to say, I probably should have looked into things a little more in depth and never be afraid to look for opportunities. Obviously, you can't go into a classroom and just teach at 17 years old and say, let me just try this and see if I like it. But you can shadow. You can do just so much more research on what it takes. They do these things at school where you get to take those assessments. And I can't remember what one of my assessments was, but it said something that it thought I would be good at. And I thought, there is no way. And but how did I know that? It's just because I was making an assumption. And if I had just maybe taken 5 minutes, maybe whatever that was that it said I should do, who knows? It definitely wasn't a doctor. I'll say that much.
Well, how have you been able to get more comfortable throughout the years of being on the radio?
Practice, just doing it every day and telling myself just it's okay to make mistakes, move past it, and just learn from it. And then also taking advantage of the minds that I work with, a lot of talented people, a lot of smart people, and just learning from them and taking the initiative to say to them, will you teach me how to do this? Can you show me how to do this? Can you tell me how it is you get past this? And that's what I was saying earlier too, about learning everything. Learn as much as you can, because it not only makes your job easier and more meaningful, and it just makes you more valuable too. And not just to your current employer, but say you want to move on to something else, it gives you a really good foundation to start from. Think about what any employer asks you is, what are your skills? And if I just went in somewhere and said, I can talk on the radio, is that going to be as valuable as saying, I can talk on the radio, I can write a commercial, I can produce a commercial, I can get us back on the air, which I actually can't, but maybe I should learn that. I don't think the engineers want me touching anything electrical around here. I will tell you, I have unplugged some things by accident. So again, just and own up to your mistakes. When you make a mistake, own up to it, because then you'll earn a little more respect too. I think, anyway, that's my assumption. I assume the engineers respect me. I'm not sure. I don't think they like me much. They're like, it's Dina again. What did she do this time? You know, it always starts off with, I swear I didn't touch anything.
So I just got a couple more for you. So in my book, Tony, he talks about the LB, the long, lonely, boring work. So can you tell us the long, lonely, boring work that goes into your career?
Everybody assumes we just turn on the microphones and go, and that it's all fun. And then we turn off the microphones and we go home. And there's a lot of work that actually goes into what you hear on the radio. So we definitely will talk about some things that we might find interesting. And then we have to do a little more research on that, you know, and then there are other times we have to set up interviews with people to talk about something that maybe they have coming up. There's editing to be done when you have an interview like that. So we might record them for 7-8 minutes, and then we have to dial that back to about 2 or 3. We have to research those people too, because you don't want to just have them on and just say, all right, you do everything and tell me what your thing's all about. You want to know more about it, and so you can be knowledgeable too. We do a lot of, like I said, writing, producing commercials, charity work. So there is a lot of behind the scenes efforts that happen before we open that mic. And so I think people will say, oh, your job must be so fun. And it is fun. And it's okay to have fun when you're doing hard work, because that makes you do the hard work a lot easier. It makes you feel like you can do it. You don't want to go into any job and say, oh, I can't believe I have to be here again. It's not a way to live. So find a job where you're going to be happy, but don't expect that happiness to just fall into your lap. Sometimes you actually do have to work for it. Put in that long, boring work. You don't have to make it boring. Try to make it fun if you can, but sometimes it will be boring. You just got to get through it. We sit through training sessions. We have to learn new things all the time, whether it's equipment, rules. There are a lot of rules in radio, things you can and can't say, whether it comes to words, sports, using other people's words. So there's a lot of behind the scenes people don't realize. We would never put that on them. We just want them to hear the fun stuff.
So last question.
Yeah.
What's one fun fact about yourself that nobody really knows?
One fun fact about me. Everybody knows I love shoes, so that's definitely not a secret. One fun fact. Let's see. Oh, you really put me on the spot with that one. This is one of those moments I wouldn't want to be on the radio, dead air. I'm a Gemini, and I talk to myself a lot. So actually, I don't even want to say talk to myself. I have conversations with myself, arguments with myself. And I feel like sometimes it's easier to vocalize than it is to just think it. So I'll just say, do you really need that shirt? No, you don't need that shirt. But you know what? That shirt would look so cute on you if you would wear that to New Year's Eve. Do you think we're going to get invited anywhere New Year's Eve? We're not getting invited anywhere New Year's Eve. There's a chance we might. You never know. So I will do that openly and out loud in a store, and people will walk by and look at me. So I don't care what people think. Though, if it's a way for me to rationalize, sometimes the voices up here, they need to come out here, or it just gets too cluttered in there. It's too full. Like, everybody take a seat. We need a break. Yeah, I'm a little cuckoo like that. That's what people don't know about me.
Thank you for coming.
That one tip I probably should not have shared. That one secret that should have stayed a secret.
Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Of course. I appreciate you having me. It was fun to be interviewed instead of doing the interviewing for a change.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Realistic CEO podcast. I appreciate all the support that everyone has been showing. The ways that you can support more is by going onto the Realistic CEO website and ordering the Realistic CEO book for yourself, your child, or even your grandchild. And for every book that you order, we also match and we donate it to a kid in lower to moderate income communities. Thank you for watching this episode. See you in the next one. Peace.